welcome to Top Secret TV. My name's David Becker. On tonight's show, we speak with Thomas and Robin, who are publishers of a magazine called Radiation in Space. As you probably know, there's quite a few alternative magazines out there now, Nexus, New Dawn and so on. And we've got the editors of this magazine with us here in the studio. Welcome Thomas, welcome Robin.
Thanks David.
How are you this evening?
Fine.
That's good. Now, can you tell us a little bit about Radiation from Space? Firstly, how did the name come about?
It was actually, I was sketching just an illustration for a band event that we were doing, and just this word came into my head, radiation from space. A lot of the ideas seem to manifest like that. You know,
Really?
just come into my head.
They strike you as radiations from space?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it just has a good feeling when you know, it feels intuitive, so yeah.
Yeah, and how did you basically start the magazine?
Well, this is another one of these intuitive things, but I woke up, you know, and just thought, you know, I was basically, you know, looking for something to do with, you know, I was playing music and stuff like that, but I wanted to do something a bit more substantial. And yeah, the idea just came into my head of starting a magazine. A friend of mine was doing a fanzine. They're called, you know, a lot of the people...
Cybernetic.
Yeah.
All the conspiracy theories about where AIDS was coming from, that kind of thing.
That's right, that's what he was exploring, and the whole bondage scene, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought, you know, if anyone can really, you know, sort of put out a magazine, so why don't I try?
Right, and turning to you for a sec, Robin, what's the underlying philosophy for the magazine? Is there something that drives it?
I guess it's the spirit of independence and an inquiry into ideas. We're really sort of looking towards sort of human potential and development of the human ability to change, and also sort of looking at things, a lot of the ideas that are not sort of covered in some of the mainstream media, personal sort of issues, such as like looking at UFOs and abductions. So that the guiding sort of philosophy is one that looking at things in a personal, an intellectual, a comical and inquisitive kind of manner, and
expressing the ideas that we're exploring. Each issue deals with a certain topic, a certain theme, and yeah, we try to invite people to submit their pieces, but not only to write things, but also to draw things, you know, even send us music and stuff like that, just so we explore a certain issue, a certain topic, and yeah. Right,
so with, say, magazines like New Dawn and Nexus and stuff like that, it's fairly sort of research and text-based. Looking through the magazine, there's quite a few sort of mixed media in there. There's some, you know, some cartoons, some drawings, even music sort of related stuff. Do you guys go for like a broader scope than, say, something like New Dawn or Nexus?
Yeah, we try not to pin ourselves down to just one perspective. I mean, the idea behind it is to explore a topic from, you know, all the different perspectives that there are, and it's, you know, the fact is with things, there's not just one way to look at them, there's infinite ways to look at them, and that's what we try to do. It
was quite interesting. We were talking before we came on tonight about the nature of truth, and you expressed the opinion that there's no such thing as that kind of black and white truth. It's very much shades of grey, and like a combination of everyone's truth is this like holistic truth. Is that sort of part of the philosophy?
Yeah, it is. So I think shades of grey, maybe more shades of colour, you know, because it gives it more vibrancy. And though, you know, the inside of our magazine is black and white because that's all we can afford. But,
but you so make up for it with the colour. Maybe we can have a look at some of these covers here. There's some amazing artwork. You do the artwork?
Yep, I do the cover illustrations. It has a certain theme. There's sort of like a character, our little Evie, who is sort of represented on each issue. Sort of like, the way I look at it is Alfred E. Newman is the cover figure on Mad magazine, and we have this Eebie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're going to have like fold-out Eebies in the back cover of the old Mad magazine?
Yeah.
Oh, I used to love those. Now, Robin, some of the issues that you've raised in here, there was a really interesting magazine or a theme, which was chaos, chance and order. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that really sort of arose after we became familiarised ourselves with this particular movement called the Discordian movement, which was started in the 60s by pretty much Robert Anton Wilson, and what they sort of tried to do was sort of subvert the conscious of mainstream sort of media by sort of looking at things in a really humorous kind of way, and they worshipped the goddess of chaos, which is Eris. And
in which mythology?
Greek mythology.
Greek mythology,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. And this particular book that he wrote, the Illuminatus trilogy, sort of is a blend of sort of fact and fiction, and a lot of sort of different theories about sort of who's actually behind the sort of the governments, the Illuminati, which is sometimes referred to in the X-Files as a sort of secret group of people. And so we sort of looking at that kind of side of things, and also the notion of sort of like from a Chinese, ancient Chinese perspective as well, of the way that the two are sort of intermingled, and one cannot exist without the other, chaos and order. So there's a humorous kind of aspect to it, and a more sort of an inquisitive look at it, like particularly the Chinese philosophy.
Did you get into any of the say with chaos mathematics, or any of those kind of strange mathematical things to do with chaos, or was it focused pretty much a philosophy thing?
Pretty much. No, we didn't really sort of get into...
We touched a bit on fractals, and it just tied them in with philosophy. I mean, any philosophy really needs a grounding in some kind of experimentation, or some kind of experience. And quantum physics and things like that are pointing to a more sort of mystical view of reality, rather than this mechanical view, which Newton's theory sort of gave rise to after the Enlightenment.
See, that's a really interesting issue. I reckon that what seems to be happening in this age is like this convergence of religion and science. There seems to be finding some middle ground. Do you think that that trend is going to continue, and we're going to find almost like a new science that combines almost some of the mystical elements, I guess you could say?
Yeah, people like the people...
Those people?
Those people. The quantum physicists.
Your Stephen Hawking's and
more the original ones. I'm trying to think of names, but they're not coming to my head. But yeah, when they first started exploring, the mathematics of the atom, and where light manifests from, and things like that, how particles move, they came up with a lot of concepts that weren't really sort of didn't have any reference in science, mechanical science. So they turned to mysticism, things like this, and started using them as metaphors, which all ideas are metaphors of how we think the world works.
Yeah. No, that's okay. And what about the other issue that we're talking about is futurism and human potential. Can you perhaps tell us a little bit about that?
That was our most recent issue, and it was more I think it ended up being more human potential than futurism, because we ended up looking a lot at the potential within each one of us, and looking at various parapsychological ideas, telepathy, and
did you look at any of the sort of education issues, like where we're going towards the future in terms of education?
No, we didn't explore that. That's an interesting area.
I guess that's probably a whole issue in
Yeah,
itself.
that's right.
All right, and moving on to like just the publishing scene in itself, how do you see the role of this alternative publishing movement? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there are quite a few mags on the market now. Where, perhaps I can address this to you, Robin. Where do you think you see radiation from space going? Is it there to fill a niche that mainstream media doesn't fulfil?
I definitely think so. That there's issues that you just can't read about in certain newspapers, and the fantastic thing at the moment, which is going on with the internet, is that you can pretty much publish anything you like and carte blanche. So obviously we've taken advantage of that, and we've got an internet site. And I think that what's actually happening now is that people look at these kind of magazines with a lot more of an open mind, because at the moment, you know, pretty much most of the media is controlled by obviously a small group of people. So I think that each person has their own story to tell and their own experiences, and the good thing about a magazine like this and Nexus and New Dawn is that people can tell these stories openly and honestly, and spread information in that kind of more personal sort of way. And we don't edit. I mean, we don't censor.
Edit for brevity.
So people, you know, have a forum in which they can express themselves fully and openly.
You mentioned that you have an internet site. Do you tell us the address?
Okay, the address is published on the top of each magazine, and it's actually part of www.warehouse.net /yippiebean. And warehouse.net is a small internet service provider in Melbourne with a kind of a crazy kind of attitude as well, and they find that most of their sites can't be accessed by those with the net nanny on their computer, so that gives you an idea of the kind of sites that they host.
Now that's an interesting idea. What do you think of censorship on the internet?
Well, I think it's pretty dodgy, really.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible that you can censor it. I mean, I think things like the net nanny are fine for people who want to, you know, prohibit their children from gaining information, like to porn sites and things like that. But as far as trying to legislate against it, you know, there's no way that you can enforce these things.
It's uncontrollable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as people, you know, we censor, you know, the world around us all the time, you know, and so, yeah.
All right. Now, you guys actually don't distribute, I guess you could say traditionally, like where a magazine might distribute through newsagents and stuff like that. How do you get your magazine out there?
By treading the streets and jumping in our cars and driving around to different states, and really just meeting with people who run bookshops and record shops, independent venues like that. So at the moment we distribute through shops in Canberra, Brisbane, Adelaide, New South Wales, and a couple of small mail orders overseas. So really it's just sort of making the personal contact with people who are like-minded. And
do you run into any problems, like, oh no, we don't carry magazines like that?
Yeah, pretty much. The magazine tends to take an unconventional approach, so people don't generally have a frame of reference that they can gauge it by, so yeah, we do get a bit of, you know, blockage in that area, but we persist and try to get out there. We've hooked into an alternative distribution network called Choosy Distribution, and they're distributing us to independent records and bookstores throughout Australian major cities, and it'll grow, you know, as the word gets out there.
Now, some of the other issues that you've actually covered in here, like iridology, UFOs, abductions, sort of some of the unusual stuff like that, Are there any sort of issues that you won't touch? Are there things that are just like, oh no, that's a bit dangerous, or we might...
Not dangerous, just more productive, I suppose. You know, we try to give a positive approach to things. You know, we won't sort of talk about, you know, just destructive ideas, I suppose. You know, we're trying to offer a positive expression, positive outlet for people with their ideas. And so, you know, look more at, I mean, I see the mainstream media is highlighting a lot of the, you know, the negative things, you know, turn on the news and first 3 stories about death. I mean, you know, but not death in a positive context, it's death in the, you know, the sensationalist gore value.
But they do make it all right by having the duck story at the end.
And the daffodils are just blooming now.
Okay, and so what would be perhaps the most controversial issue that you've covered, do you think?
Sex magic, I suppose.
Sex magic? Tell us about sex magic.
That's more Robin's area. She might be article.
Robin, tell us about sex magic.
Oh, there's certain sort of beliefs that come from ancient tantric religions that there's a magical energy released when any human being has an orgasm, and that this energy is sort of obviously a very powerful healing energy, and people have taken this idea further, like such as Wilhelm Reich in the 50s, and he studied under Freud, and he actually sort of used this as a kind of therapy for people to bring them out of cancer and all kinds of diseases that sort of basically sort of caused a lot of rigidity in their body, and so he would help them to free themselves with this strange device that he created.
Oh, this was orgon.
Yeah, but he reached that sort of point where he made that contraption by studying orgone energy, which he perceived came from humans originally. So, and also that sort of looking at a more sort of occult sort of perspective, that people use it in a black kind of way, you know, that they can use this power, and at that moment, that by psychically sort of concentrating their power on an individual or
an object, like a crystal or something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
That they can affect the individual or an object with this power that's released at that moment. So I guess at the moment it's something that really we only know about anecdotally. It's yet to be sort of fully...
So you researched this story yourself, you didn't actually interview a tantric master or something like that?
No, it was pretty much reading different people's stories. There was one book I read which was a compilation of interviews with people who were just keen to sort of talk about their experiences, and they could do all kinds of strange things, you know, that one person could sit across the room from another one, and just by staring into each other's eyes they could give each other an orgasm. And
fair income.
Yeah. So.
Is that an easy to learn technique?
Well, we won't try it on camera now.
I want to actually move on to some of the events that you guys are organising. I understand that you've actually got a lounge benefit, is that right?
Yes.
Or a benefit at the lounge?
That's right, yeah.
Lounge benefit.
Yeah. We basically, the way we fund this magazine is by, you know, well, by sales, but obviously also by getting people along and just having benefits, getting local bands and local poets and just various other, you know, personalities to come together. Our next issue is on the millennium, so this benefit at the lounge is around the theme of the apocalypse, so it's called Cabaret Apocalypse. We'll have 3 acoustic bands interlaced with spoken word, and then after that leading to DJs and a bit of dancing and techno music, and yes, so...
Oh, that sounds really good. I think we'll have to pop along. Can you
Please do.
Get a whipping by Master Vlad.
That's right.
From the Hellfire.
Yeah, yes.
What do you think of some of these end of millennium prophecies? I mean, there's the I think it's the Chinese calendar seems to end not year 2000, I don't think, but somewhere reasonably near there. And
The Mayan calendar,
Mayan
2012.
Yeah.
21st of December, actually.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Have you booked a sort of inland holiday or something?
Had a big splurge that day.
What do you think of some of these prophecies?
I mean, they're interesting. I take the view that it relates to a personal transformation, that apocalyptic writing is about, you know, psychological processes, very much like the Tibetan Book of the Dead is, you know, an experience of the process of change in a symbolic sort of way.
Okay, like transcendence in a sense.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, getting beyond the fixed ideas. So, you know, the apocalyptic ideas are very much, you know, talking similar imagery, you know, the sort of destruction of, you know, the world. You know, you could translate that as, you know, the destruction of a certain fixed concept that you have about yourself, or a fixed idea.
Or even within society, a fixed concept.
That's right, yeah. And, you know, we can't deny change is happening constantly. And, you know, especially these days, technology is accelerating, you know, our understanding of the world and also the way we interact with each other. The internet is a perfect example. And so, yeah, I mean, there are people like Terence McKenna who are predicting around 2012 that these technological advances are going to reach a point where almost an infinite number of things are going to become aware to the human species. So that's his interpretation of the apocalypse. It's time wave zero, when novelty, as he calls it, reaches a point of infinite expansion.
Sounds rather overwhelming, like Future Shock or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. With you were speaking before about sex magic. Is many of the articles that you guys publish actually written by people in Melbourne? Is most of it local content?
Most of it is.
Yeah.
There's a few people who contribute regularly, such as David Roderick Smith, who just achieved rather recent fame by distinguishing himself as a winner of Sale of the Century.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And he's actually written an article, I think, for every issue we've done.
Now we can make a big fat donation.
And we find that people mail us in articles and stories, and Tom's made a few contacts over the internet with people in the States, but mostly they're people that we know.
But contributions are always welcome. That's what part of the intention of the magazine is, that it's a forum to discuss, you know, the topic, the ideas, and for people to express, you know, what they feel about the idea, you know, whether it is in words or in, you know, picture form.
Do you have any, like, regular columns that are always on the same kind of thing or same issue, issue to issue?
No, we have someone who wishes to write a sort of comic perspective of each issue. Stephen Hall, he wishes to contribute that, and yeah, we're happy to. Some of his ideas are quite humorous. But no, it's more. I mean, we have regular interview. In each issue, we try to do an interview with a person about their beliefs and their ideas. You know, just their sort of spirituality, if you like, and you know, we touch on the topic as well and talk to, you know, them about whatever the current issue is on.
Right.
So it's an exploration of personal identity and personal beliefs.
And who are some of the people that perhaps our audience might know of that you've done this with?
Well, no one that the audience would know.
Oh, okay.
We try to sort of just talk to you know, your ordinary, normal person.
Everyone's extraordinary,
of course. But, you know, but, you know, just to get, you know, their perspective rather than, you know, a cult of personality perpetuating that. We'd rather just, you know, sort of see the flower in everyone, which is the idea of it.
Oh, great. I want to actually talk a little bit about some of these amazing covers. Maybe we can have a look at another one. Do you just draw these yourself, like freehand with, I don't know, whatever medium that's used here, pencil?
Pencil, pastel. We try to sort of bring the computer in as well. I mean, this issue is a bit of an exception because that illustration was very much as it was as it left my fingers. But say, for instance, the issue on organic technology, which is this black cover here.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a organic technological event there. I did the basic illustration, and then we used the computer to add some of the effects, the swirling at Mr. Eby's feet there, and also the light coming down on the two ascended masters on the other side.
Wow.
So yeah, we try to combine the sort of the computer and the.
All right, and actually, organic technology, that sounds quite intriguing. Can you tell us a little bit about that article?
That issue, I would suppose.
Whereabouts so you can find it in there for
All
me?
right, I shall endeavour to find something exciting.
Is that...
That was the theme of this issue. We tried to look at, the marriage of technology and the organic. And sort of, rather than, look at it as technology taking away from, our human experience, look at it more of it's bringing something.
Okay, here we go.
This was an issue.
Sustainable ecology.
This was an interview with the zoologist that we, just talked about technology and its role in the ecosystem, and how technology, in a sense, is a natural. It's the human discerning feature. It's what gives us our uniqueness. All animals have a certain ability or a certain thing which distinguishes them as in the ecosystem, and humans seems to be this ability to adapt and to harness things like technology. There's no other animal on Earth that does that.
Well, it seems like our niche just keeps on expanding.
That's right, and we're using it to explore ourself, our naturalness, if you like. So that was the idea, to sort of get beyond that myth of technology is bad, but rather looking at it as how it can be used as a tool to help us to explore ourselves.
There's this other article, we're just talking about that there's no other animal like humans, just sort of brought to mind the dolphins. But in this particular issue we sort of discovered that the dolphins had been used in the Vietnam War. They'd been trained from youngsters to actually sort of perceive certain sound signals, and not only that, they're actually trained to sort of pick up objects, take them somewhere, deposit them and come back again,
like
i.e. such as mines and so on. And they actually became quite brilliant at following instructions, but also navigation skills as well. So this is sort of a bizarre example of using like the amazing kind of aerodynamic features of the dolphin, and then actually sort of harnessing sort of more human kind of technological ideas and combining the two together. The original sort of basis for this research that they did was they wanted to sort of form some kind of missile using the aerodynamic shape of the dolphin.
Not actually using the dolphin as a delivery system.
Well, that as well. That as well.
Really?
That's actually sort of what came out of it.
What a charming research.
But some of the dolphins actually went insane and
Really?
and died. Yeah.
Wonder if they were having moral quandaries.
The stress levels, I think, were too high somehow.
Lucky they're sort of a fairly benevolent animal, or they seem to be, otherwise they might have gone bugger this and planted the mine, so they're really nasty. Well, that's pretty much all we have time for this week, so thanks for being with us, Robin. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Dave.
And if you want to get into your local store or music store and look out for Radiation from Space, that's all we have time for this week, so we'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye.
secret TV, top secret TV.